Hello, hello, and welcome. Come on in. I forgot my drink, and I thought I'm going to pass out if I don't have something to drink. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. I'm so glad you are here. Just do sound check. Can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Welcome, everyone. I am glad you are here. All right. Give everybody a chance to hop on. And while you're, while you're doing that, I just want to quickly remind everyone that I'm Coach Carla Nicole, and I want to welcome you. Today we are going to be talking about, my SoulEclipse relationship insight, and we're going to talk about the daunting phase. So come on in, relax, get comfortable, grab your drink, get your notebooks, because I'm going to talk about some things that we need to address about love affairs. I know many people, without a shadow of a doubt, desire relationships. They definitely want them. And then once they're in them, they're like, what was I thinking? Or they're thinking, I don't think I was thinking. I was just in love. So I just went ahead and did this. And now that I'm in this, it's feeling a little awkward, or it's feeling different, or there's feelings that I didn't know was going to surface from past hurts. Um, Undeniably, we go through our changes within the confines of love affairs. So, if you are not aware, I am Coach Carla Nicole. Please tell me who you are, where you're from. Make yourself comfortable. Get yourself a drink. I'm not going to get started right away to give everybody a chance to get here. But like I said, um, it is a challenge when you're talking about being in a relationship. And so, when we talk about the soul eclipse, a lot of times we're not talking about when everything is great, when everything is on the rise, when everything is wonderful. That is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about when things get a little challenging, when things kind of take a toll for the worst. When we go through the daunting phase of the soul eclipse, it is not fun, nor is it quick. So it's not at the snap of the fingers. Normally, soul eclipse come gradually. So what do I mean by gradually? Sometimes it gets to where we're just not talking. We don't have anything to say. We're not going to conversate. We're just going to walk around this big fat elephant in the middle of the room, and we're tired of talking. So we get to the point where we're just fed up from the floor up. If you'd like to say old school sayings will come out of me. I am not young. I'm in my 50s, so you might hear some old school sayings you never heard before. But like I said, fed up from the floor up with your lover or within the confines of your love affair, you're going to find yourself very frustrated, very upset. So grab your tea, grab your drinks, get your journals ready. Let me know where you're from, who you are. A lot of times I'm big about being interactive, so I'll share with you some coaching information if you need it, so that you're not just watching frivolously, but you're watching to learn. So again, welcome. I'm Coach Carla Nicole. Welcome to the SoulEclipse Show. We're going to talk today about the daunting phase in love affairs. So what happens in these phases once we get in love? What happens? Anybody can chime in. Say what it is that happens in the daunting phase. What happens when the quote unquote honeymoon is over? What happens in your love affairs? The reason I want you to kind of think about this is not because I'm trying to chastise or trying to be judgmental. I'm just wanting you to kind of look into your past relationships so that you realize that a lot of times when you leave those relationships, the patterns still show up. They show up not because of the reason we might think, oh, I keep picking the wrong person with a different name. It's like, no, not always. Sometimes it's us, and a lot of times we have a hard time admitting that we're bringing old patterns to new love affairs. Even after all the healing work, all of the crying, and the self awareness, it doesn't matter. We still have our challenges where we still find ourselves in between a rock and a hard place where we're feeling just unseen in our love affairs. So please share with me what are some of the examples you have. I could tell you a couple for me. I would get a little suffocating personally when I was in love affairs. Listen, I would get very suffocating. Whereas if a gentleman or one of my lovers wasn't upfront about where he was thinking or what he was thinking, or when I'm talking to him, he's drifting off into somewhere else. And I'd be like, what is going on? Why are you not addressing or talking to me? I feel like I'm repeating myself. What's going on? And at that time, I usually come to a point where I'm up so close in his face, he can't breathe to even think about what he's trying to focus on. And this, my love, is some of our hardest challenges as a woman. And this is just our particular way of being, is that we have a tendency to find ourselves wanting everything up front so we can understand why we have this distance between us. And yes, it is a distance. So let me let you know this. Sometimes in our love affairs, we don't want to express that we feel distance even if we're under the same roof, even if we're in the same car, even if we're on a date, even if we're going on vacation or whatever. We feel like this person's a stranger, or we don't feel connected or drawn to them. This is because your soul allure for each other is daunting. Now, let me give you some heads up, because I know when you're going through something like this, it's hard to even make any type of understanding make sense. But just imagine it's a soul. You and he are a soul, and you both have things that you've dealt with currently and in the past. And in that, you've had times that you both kind of went through this phase of frustration, patterns from childhood, backstories behind old love. All of those things still carry up from where we are from where we were. And let me explain why that happens. So, unfortunately, this happens because, again, when we're in love affairs, we are having a hard time understanding that if we don't deal with what's really going on in our love affairs, we're going to find ourselves dealing with not their stuff, our own stuff. And so, again, I have to often, dealing with my clients, I have to oftentimes tell them, don't focus on their lover, but focus on them. And that's not easy to do, because it's easier to build a case on someone outside of you because we see them, so we can make our assessments, we can make our evaluations on what they're doing and what they're not. But I oftentimes say, no, we got to go back to you, my love, because why are you spending so much time evaluating your love affair so much? Your love that you're involved with. You have to stop, look, and pay attention to you, because unfortunately in our daunting phase, it's not abrupt. So you're not going to have a whole bunch of back and forth and arguments and things of that nature. No, actually it's going to be the other way around. It's going to be more kind of like short tempered. You're also going to find moments where your lover is less responsive, quick to temper. They also have times where they are easily agitated by you just even being in the room. These, my love, are small, subtle ways to start to pick up that you are actually getting ready to go into a daunting phase. And rather than trying to hurry up and make a decision that you are together or not, I always tell everyone that's been here and been on here before, during the daunting phase of a soul eclipse, you want to hold off making any type of major decision if you should be together or not. Okay? So, again, you want to pause being quick to make a decision in a love affair when you're unsure as to what's going on between the two of you. Why have you been arguing, or why haven't you been talking? Why are you so distant and you're sitting right next to me? Why are you on that phone so much and not looking at me when we're talking about things? These are the kinds of things that are signs that, ooh, I'm having a solar eclipse and I didn't know I was in one. But I'm feeling things aren't the same. Why does this happen? So, let me help you to understand why sometimes these type of relationships go into a mess. And unfortunately, they go into a mess to sometimes they go to their own demise because we want to hurry our decision on how we're feeling. We're basing it on how we feel, not based upon what it is. So I'm helping you to get out of the feeling space because feelings can go up, can go down, can go all around. So rather than getting so caught up and swooped up on how you feel, because it's not a connection that seems to be all that warm felt at this time, you want to wait a minute before you start going ahead and making a major decision on a minor phase in your love affair that is just trying to bring you to awareness that some things need to be talked about, dealt with, and brought up so that in the next phase of your love affair, you don't have to feel like I'm dragging this old baggage or these old actions or our old habits into the new phase we're going to from now on. So if you could go ahead and start paying attention to what is bothering you, you can then start to realize, okay, so these type of things irk me, these type of things cause me to get an attitude, these type of things cause me to feel abandoned. All of those different things are not about your lover, they're about you. So with that said, let's talk about that. So sometimes we can feel abandoned in our love affair, and we don't really want to feel that, but we do. It's just what it is. So um, inside of love affairs, we have a tendency to feel a sense of security, safety, um, vulnerability, and habitually we have a tendency to feel a okayness in being open with how we are feeling, what's going on, how are we feeling, what are we feeling. And so in that we can find ourselves more adjustable. We're more pliable to being okay with change. But a lot of times we are not. The reason that daunting phase comes into such a mess is because we are not welcoming change as we should. I want you to sit in that for a minute because we as human beings have a hard time adjusting with change, especially when we get comfortable. What does that mean, right? So sometimes when we get comfortable, we don't want change because we like the predictability. Depending upon your living soul archetype, you may not want all of those different changes and all that different randomness. You may like consistency, you may like contentment, and you may like to keep it simple to the point where you're probably like a minimalist and you don't want all the changes and you don't want all the back and forth. You just want to come home to where you know home is going to be what it is. But I have news for you. Even the minimalist, even those of you that are not really apt to being easily adjustable, let me explain something to you. Just like all the seasons change, you are changing, your lover's changing, and the relationship and and the connection with each other will change. Regardless of how you feel, it is going to change. So, with that said, ladies, I know we can relate to this. You know, ladies, how we get our hair done and we'll fix up, we'll put a different outfit on, we'll get a new purse, we'll buy some new accessories for our clothes, we'll get a new outfit. We like change. And normally that's one of the reasons why we're so good at shopping because we're able to change. We're able to be excited about change. However, men don't want to do all that shopping. They just don't. And so a lot of times men are irritated by going out with us to a store to shop with us. They don't want to do all that because it's like, I am not trying to be in aisle after aisle after aisle and you trying to decide what you want to buy and what you don't. However, normally we as women, we like change. Like, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share. Share, share, share. Okay, so Again, when you're fed up from the floor up about how your lover is not or is changing, and originally he or she may have been a different version of what he was or she was in the beginning. So, with that said, a lot of times we get caught up and swooped up into understanding our lover to be one way. And since then, since we have a consistency of love affairs being what it is and having a routine, normally this is when things get different, when things change. And a lot of times, if we don't become more accepting of change, welcoming of change, and aware of change, change will happen. And the next thing you know, you're out the loop. This is why I stress so much that it's important that you soul study. Why should you soul study? You should soul study every day. Learn something new about you because you're consistently changing. I don't care if it's the dreams you're having, thoughts you're seeking, even if there's shows you're watching that's bringing on a new awareness about something. Pay attention to what you're learning and what you're learning is and how it's impacting you now so that you're on the current version of knowing who you are because we constantly change. Matter of fact, on my Substack today, I talked about two scenarios. Two. I have two children. I have a daughter and a son, and I had two major scenarios happen within a week, and both of which were wonderful to coach to, wonderful to talk about, and wonderful to learn something about me. So, in my scenario with my son, he he got his new part for his computer and everything was fine. Then he was putting the part on the computer and then it was a whole nother scenario. Then my daughter was trying to put my grandson into daycare. Everything was fine, so we thought, and then that's a whole nother scenario. So in both scenarios, I learned something about me. Now see, why would those two so different scenarios be so impactful? Well, because I soul study. I pay attention to how I reacted because I'm in control of me. I can't change what happens outside of me, but how I respond, how I react, and how I resolve is so important as a mother, as a mom. Same with me being a lover. How I respond, how I react, and how I resolve is going to have a huge impact. So in those scenarios, I have to sit down and study. So I studied intensely this morning because last night the whole computer scenario happened with my son, and I had to soul study and go in and see, well, what did I not do? What did I do? How did I respond? What did I tell my son? How was I helpful? Was I helpful? Did he get to his resolution? Was I effective with what I was doing? Did I stay too long? Was I too suffocating for him while he's trying to figure things out? Or did I stand back too far to where he didn't feel I was reachable or could help? All of these things are important because as a mother, yes, I'm a mom, but I'm also a lover. So inside of being a mother, how I actually interact with both children is going to still have a high impact on how I impact in my lover. So I have to look at, well, how did I respond to my lover when he has a situation going on? Am I too close? Do I give him space? Am I too, oh, well, you could just do this and just hurry up to a resolution? Well, again, I have to soul study. I got to go in here and study my soul. Well, what did I do to help my son? What did I do to help my daughter? And like I said, two scenarios crammed into 1 week is very unlikely for me. I mean, we have a small family, so usually they're spaced out. And so scenarios don't come back to back like that. But on my Substack, I was like, you know what? I've got to address these two scenarios so that I can help my YouTubers understand that in these events that happen in our family, in our love affairs, we oftentimes still drag that mother, the father, the brother, the family member, we still drag that part of ourselves into our love affairs. So how we impact our love for our children is definitely very similar to how we impact our love in our love life. So I wanted to tell you why it's so important that you make sure to focus on your soul studying. Make sure you take your time with learning the current version of you. Here's what's deep. A lot of times we don't think about how important it is that we are current in our version of ourself. This is how daunting phases sneak up. They sneak up on us because we don't realize that, oh my goodness, ooh, I didn't know that version of me would surface. Yes, it will. And in our love affairs, we're confused because we aren't aware that this person is having a hard time relating to me because I didn't realize I rushed to resolution too soon. I went into a panic in my reaction and I should have been a little more reserved. Or I didn't respond quick enough to where the person thought I wasn't even paying attention to my hurt. So my triple R spectrum, which is reaction, response, and resolve, those three major reactions matter in love affairs. So the 3R spectrum is huge for understanding. This is why I'm saying in order to soul study and pay attention to our soul, we have to look at how are we resolving, how are we reacting, and how are we responding when we're in the heart or in the thick of a major crisis or a major situation, or even the subtle ones. Hey babe, I have to use the car tomorrow. Well, I have such and such and such to do tomorrow. Well, that's not going to work because I have to be to work. Well, what am I going to do? Well, I don't know what you're going to do, as an example. So now you got back and forth, rather than pausing and saying, let us figure this out. And there's no reason for the back and forth and arguing. But inside a daunting phase, you already don't feel connected. So the person that has to go to work feels like, you know what? You're not even considerate that I have to go to work. And then the other one is saying, well, you're not considerate that I have things to do tomorrow, that I didn't know you had to go to work. So now we have two situations in one, and now both are feeling unheard because they're already dealing with the fact that they're in the daunting phase, and now both couples are feeling frustrated. Well, this is why I say all the time, when clients come to me, they don't come to me when everything is beautiful. I don't get clients coming to me and telling me how beautiful their love affair is. That's the least, that is the less likely ever. I don't believe ever someone came to me to tell me how beautiful they love their love affair. No, it's never happened, and I doubt it ever will. However, once I get someone in with me, I tell them, in order to create a harmony in their love affair, once you get it out and you succeed from a daunting phase, you have to learn how to maintain it throughout that. So it's fine that you've evolved and you guys decided to stay together and everything's better and everything's good. However, it still requires for you to now do some work. Additional work on, like I said, soul studying. Are you doing your triple R's? You have to pay attention to that. You can't assume that the mother in you or the father in you or the brother in you or the businessman in you or the sister in you is going to impact the lover in you. It is. This is why I'm telling you, in the daunting phase, it gets very, very heavy. And as that example showed, when the one lover had to be to work tomorrow and the other one had things to do, now we have a conflict. And now someone is inconvenienced. There's one car. What are we going to do? And you taking the car to work tomorrow and it's sitting in the parking lot the whole time you're there is going to inconvenience me when I could be having things done. As an example, right? And now you're back and forth and arguing. And you realize that sometimes we won't say anything. Once we're at that peak of anger, we'll just shut down and say nothing. And now we'll be a little, what you call, passive aggressive or an avoidant, and we'll just say nothing. We'll avoid confrontation because we don't want to deal with it. I'm not going to deal with you going back and forth with you. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm just going to go ahead and be on my own and figure it out like I always do. Isn't that what we say? I'll just figure it out like I always do because you don't want to listen to me anyway. I'm just going to do it my way. Well, During the daunting phase, this is how things start to stack and become more and more explosive at the end of the phase, because no one can hear, no one is adjustable or patient, no one is trying to get to the resolve. They're too busy in the reactive state. So when you're not considerate, you oftentimes are just reacting, 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 and you're not in the mindset of thinking, how can we fix this? What can we do? And then don't get caught up in that either. This is why I say you got to study, because you can't just try to resolve something too quick either. You got to sometimes hold back trying to come up with a resolve, because a resolve may be seemingly unattainable. This happened to me with my son last night. I was trying to hurry up and get to the resolve. Well, son, we can take it to do this and we can do that. Mom, it's just not, you're not understanding. What do you mean, son? We could just take it over to the computer spot and have them. No, it's broke, Mom. It's broke. You don't understand. You're not listening to me. As an example. So I'm trying to rush to resolve when I should have just given him space and let him figure it out. Now, mind you, he told me it was broke, but he kept still screwing stuff in. And I'm like, well, if it's broke, son, leave it alone. But he was determined. He's not going to allow for this to keep going. So for me, I'm very big about encouraging, but I'm also sometimes too quick of a coach in my love affairs. I'm also too quick of a coach as a mom. Sometimes my kids just want to use me as a sounding board. It's hard for me because I want to resolve it and I want to bring out, well, how you can fix it. But sometimes I have to hold that back and just be a mother for a minute, or just be a lover for a minute. Just be someone that just wants to vent. It doesn't always have to come to a resolution. Sometimes they just want to talk. They just want to vent. And sometimes we have to learn that. And that's not easy to do. And then sometimes also, when someone is reactive because they already have been in a very reactive family, we have to learn that as well. Some people get very reactive very quickly. And we could take it personally, like, oh my God, you're just so reactive, and I just don't understand why you get so angry so fast. It's like, well, what's your reaction to their anger? Do you meet it with anger? Do you say, this is not the time, and you walk away from the anger? Do you get silent and avoid the anger? I mean, we have to really study our souls and do it in the privacy of your own aloneness. Don't spend time trying to do it while you're trying to figure it out. Don't do that. This is why I'm saying it's better during the daunting phase that we take our time and we baby step understanding our soul and ourself. So self-loving and soul study is very important. So soul studying requires to see how you react. The next thing you want to see how you do is, how do you respond? And then lastly, what do you do when it's time to resolve? Or do you have any type of, in your mind, do you ever just sit back and think, yes, you know what? I do have the desire to want to resolve it, but oftentimes I'm not sure how to resolve it, so I just get fed up from the floor up and then I don't even bother. So again, this is a pinnacle time in a daunting phase to sit down and see, am I too responsive? Am I too reactive? Or am I trying to rush to resolution without allowing for the time and the space for the person to figure it out? And again, we all have our ways, but in the daunting phase, we have to come to terms with the fact that sometimes our love affairs gets very, very daunting because it goes through a darkness. And then let's touch a little bit about what happens to intimacy. So I always say in love affairs, when, especially when the connection is compromised, or there's a breach in contract, or there's a terrible misunderstanding, or there comes a point where apologies aren't being made. There's all kinds of reasons that, lovers will find themselves not making none. They're not making any love at all. They're just cutting off all intimacy. So I wanted to talk about this because in the daunting phase, Oftentimes during that phase, intimacy and sexual interaction is plummeting. Um, or it's very, 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 um, I would say maybe 2 to 3 times a month, maybe, if that. So it's very infrequent. It's just not happening at all. Because I always say, if you want to know what is your phase you're in, look at your sexual activity. It gives you a lot of data. And I'm not saying to sit down and count the days. No. I'm not sitting down and talk about how many bodies you got. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the frequency of the intimacy. So it's not about how many times you're having sex, because that doesn't matter either. That means, oh, sometimes we're having it just to have it to count. No, that's not what I'm saying. How many times are you intimate to where you both want it and you both are very present in it? Intimacy is not always often about, we did it this time and we're counting how many times and we've been doing it for this song. All of that is irrelevant. You have to live in the present. We can't get caught up and swooped up in what we want, and well, Sarah does it every this time, and then we see it on the TV. They have it all the time. That doesn't have anything to do with you and you and yours and your relationship. So listen to what I'm saying. When you're talking about during the daunting phase, a lot of times the first thing to go is intimacy. Every time, without a shadow of a doubt. This is why I get inboxed. This is why I get asked questions. This is why I get called. This is why I get booked. Because every time, well, he's not making any love, or he isn't in pursuit of none, or she ain't even around to where I can get it anymore. And I just feel so depleted. I feel like I'm in this relationship alone and I don't know what's going on. Well, this is why. Because intimacy is not just about the sexual act, the in and out, the penetration and all of that. Intimacy is sometimes you don't even come to orgasm. Sometimes it's just, we just want to be close. We want to feel each other. We want to be close to each other. And this is why a lot of times we miscount what intimacy really is, because we're spending a lot of time talking about sex, and we want to, how often and what good is it and how many people and all this other stuff that's irrelevant. I'm talking about real solid love affairs where you're in the daunting phase and your sex is damn near depleted. Why? That's when you want to ask yourself some very intricate questions. Are you changing as a lover? Not based upon what you did back then. And because let me tell you something, when you first started in the honeymoon phase, you couldn't get enough. You were dressing up, you were fixing up, you were calling up, you was doing this, you was doing that, you was making sure she or he was having what they need. What happened? You got comfortable, right? Comfortable. Familiarity. I don't have to do all that. He's here now. I don't have to do all that working and helping and all that. I ain't got to do all that. I got him now. No, that's not true. That is the least thing you want to do in a love affair. I'm not promoting monogamy. That's not what I'm doing. But I'm saying, if you're in a love affair, even in your poly affair, or whatever you got going on, in those affairs, you can't get laxed because you think you won the person you're in a relationship with. That is the first and the very easiest way to lose them. Because again, what is missing is you. Your eagerness to want to be close. Your desire to want to still be involved in that way. If you deplete all desire or all energy to focus on your lover and what they need, then guess what's going to happen? You're not going to have nothing. And nor is he or she. And then it's going to feel like, oh my God, I'm in this love affair and I feel so alone. If you feel alone, what do you think your lover's feeling? Together? No, they're not. They're feeling just as left out as you. But that's because something in you shut off. Now, only you can answer this in the daunting phase. Only you can speak to it. If you're not moved to want to get close to this person, then there's a reason behind why you are not wanting to be close. Because obviously, in the beginning, you had no problem with being close. So what happened? Why all of a sudden are you feeling like you don't have the energy, you don't have the desire, you don't have the taste, you don't feel like doing all that? Whatever that energy is coming from something. And when that happens, this is why relationships begin to get depleted. And the first thing to go in a love affair is intimacy. Every time. And that's when I get my calls. I'm not getting any, he's not getting any. I'm not doing all that because I don't. What a lot of times I'm finding, there is strong soul abandonment issues in the person that is being, I would say, not available. They're just not making themselves aware. They're going to bed late, or when they go to bed, they got a bonnet on their head or a whole long pajamas outfit. So they're not going in the bed nude. They're going so they don't have to shed or think this lover is going to think he's going to get something. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure he don't want none. So I'm going to close everything up. So I'm going to put a whole pajama set on. I'm not going to make it accessible. Really? And then you wonder why you're not having any intimacy. That's peeling away the closeness. That doesn't make any sense. And yet you wonder why the connectivity that's not happening isn't happening. Well, if you're not even in a good headspace to where you want to mold and move together in a rhythm sexually, then what makes you think you're going to be in rhythm in conversation? What makes you think you're going to be in rhythm when it comes to financing? What makes you think you're going to be in rhythm in how we work and how we operate under the roof? What makes you think that this is going to work and we're going to be in rhythm in mindset? We're not. We're going to be two different people. We're not even going to be on the same page. And that's common because there's no touching going on. During intimacy, you're sharing your most vulnerable thing you could possibly share, which is your sacral energy, your sexual energy, your chi. So if you're sharing all of that, that obviously means I feel safe with you. I certainly would hope you're not sharing with someone you don't feel safe with. And if that's the case, then that needs to be a whole nother call. You need to call me personally about that. But, oh, by the way, 8445 wisdom, extension 0, if you're not. So, but anyway, if you're just having this daunting phase and you're not feeling like really sensual or moved to be sensual, or feeling like I feel like he's not here or I'm not there, or there's times when in sex we have our different type of rhythms. So sometimes we can be great as far as how we flow. Sometimes we women should go through the change. Of course, you hear about that. And then we have some physical changes, sexual changes, and intimate changes to where we might feel hot as hell. Like right now, I feel like I'm having a flash. But as an example, you can go through your different changes, and men as well. So they may go through erectile dysfunction, or they may not rise to you, or they may feel like, they ejaculate too quick. All of these things can impact how the intimate life that you're in is feeling so daunting. So, like I said, all of these give us signs as to where we're at in our love affair. Doesn't mean it's a right or wrong, it's just telling you where you're at. So now you have to look inside you. Now let me give you the Zen for the soul abandoned. Here's the Zen. Let me take a sip of this. So, the Zen for the soul abandoned. This is the person that is struggling, terribly struggling with feeling unheard, unseen. They're feeling abandoned by their love affair, and they just don't have the gusto to want to get into a bedroom seen with their lover because they're afraid that that person's going to be like, I ain't got time for all that, or there's going to be a decline, or there's going to be a not right now, I'm not in the mood. And oftentimes with my soul abandons, I always try to inform them, don't take those kind of answers personal. We have to learn to become immune to certain things. Oftentimes we get so caught up in what someone says. We get caught up into feeling like someone meant harm. And that's oftentimes not the case. They just maybe don't have it in them. But that doesn't mean you can't still move into a different rhythm. Okay, if we're not going to do that, that's fine, but let's dance. Let's hold each other. Let's take a walk together. Let's go somewhere. But let's connect and let's look at each other. Let's really give each other the vibes we had in the beginning. It's not always about the sex. Sometimes it's just about the connection. Are you with me? Let me fill you in on what I learned about me. Are you interested? And if they say no, don't take it personal. Say, okay, it's fine. Maybe we'll catch it another day. Maybe this is not the day. And don't take it personal. Listen, when people say no, it's fine. You would rather them say no than yes and sit there with a blank stare and have no desire to want to hear what you're saying. And you're talking to yourself anyway. Be glad when someone is being upfront and honest. Stop getting caught up in taking everything so personally. There's no reason for it. When someone is saying something, let them say it. And then be willing to hear it without taking offense. And whenever we take offense in the daunting phase, it makes things 10 times worse. So again, pay attention to your intimacy. Your intimacy is very important to pay attention to and study. Not necessarily about performance. I'm not talking about how great of an orgasm you had or how great he did that time or whatever. And of course, we do have our moments where we're like, oh, he really put it down today. And we have our times. But outside of that, how present is he during intimacy? Is he there or not really? Is she there or not really? You got to look at this because this is stuff we don't ask ourselves enough. We're in relationships and we're not spending enough time to really pay attention with what is it that we truly need? What is it our soul needs? This is why I say it's so important to do the soul studying, because you don't know until you learn. And you start to realizing before intimacy, I have to have long conversations. Or before intimacy, I have to feel like I matter to you. Or before intimacy, it's not about the gifts you buy me. Sometimes it's the time you take. The best thing that any person can give anyone they're in a relationship with, not things, not anything, but their time. And their access. Because when someone has your time and your access and you both put your phones away, you now and turn the TVs off and close the computers down and really spend time with each other, you start to realize, man, this is really amazing. I'm really feeling connected to you. I feel connected to you because now I'm not so caught up in competition with that phone, or in competition with the show you're watching, or in competition with that game, or in competition with all these other things. Let's just we don't have to make it, something we do every day. But if I want to get down with the get down, I would like to have some space and time with you one-on-one. And be honest in it. We don't have to make this a ritual. But if that's something you need, that's something you have to study with yourself and pay attention to it. Because if we don't pay attention to our needs, then a lot of times we can't also communicate what the needs are. And we don't even know, oh, this is something I need. Yes, it's something you need. And so because you know now, you know how to be like, look, before intimacy, I would like this, or I would like that, or I enjoy when we do this. That way, you can be more present in the intimacy and in the sex scene. We have to be honest about stuff. We're grown. We have a tendency to not be honest about what it is we need and what it is we want, so we spend a lot of time being very judgmental. We spend all this time contemplating about what someone is and what someone's not. Study you. You are the number one person that you can really evaluate for real and honesty And you're really the only person that you know, for real. You know, one of the things my father always told me, you'll never know. The only person you really know is you. And I thought, well, shoot, I better get busy because I still got some things about me I don't know. I don't know. Based upon scenarios, it might be a different version. I didn't realize I had road rage until I started door dashing. Yes, your coach. Yeah, I'll act a fool, depending upon certain scenarios while I'm driving. Usually the person can't hear me, but I'm yelling or whatever. I'm not perfect. I got my own stuff. Like I say, I have to study me. Well, what's up with this road rage you got going on? So again, we have to really pay attention to ourselves and not get so caught up in judging someone else and learn to be graceful and patient and not impatient. I know it's hard not to be sometimes with your lover. Now, also, I am currently doing soul allure test where it actually measures how you grade on your soul allure test. Yes, it is a very interesting interest. It's all free. All you have to do is inbox me on YouTube, or you can email me at coachcarlanicole@gmail.com. You can email me and say you would like to get a reading on your soul allure measurement, and it doesn't matter if you're in a relationship or if you're single. It doesn't matter. You need to know, like, what is your soul allure like? And this is important because when we have a relationship, there's a certain amount of allure that we bring into the love affair. And there's different compartments and categories that this test actually asks you just off of the questions alone. You can have up to 125 points on the test, but there's 25 questions, and it specifically asks you what level your soul allure measures to. You by yourself, and then if it's you and a partner, then you and your partner can take the test and answer the questions as well. And then I can let you know, well, here's some of the areas you can work on, here's some of the areas that your strengths are at, and here's some of the things you can do together to improve your score, or even just work on you. Because the first thing we got to do, and I tell you guys all the time, the first person that you have to figure out is you. The number one person that goes into these love affairs is you. So no matter what love affair you're in, you only can control yourself. And so in that, what better way to soul study than to take the test and learn of yourself? Because when you get the test scores, I then tell you, well, here's what I see from your scoring. Now, it doesn't mean that it's perfect. Even if you get a high score, it doesn't mean you're perfect. If you get 125 out of 125, it doesn't mean you're perfect. It just means that you're doing well. But still, there's always room for growth. Always, no matter what score we have. And just because you took the test today, again, in a month or 2 months, you might score differently, which 9 times out of 10 you do. Because we go through phases in love affairs, right? We go through soul eclipse. And when we go through those soul eclipse, our answers are going to be different. If our answers are different in our love affairs, then we need to look at what's the current version of me and where am I falling, so that you can learn to be patient with you. Because again, we get angry with ourselves. We can sometimes be pretty mean to ourselves when we get out of order. And I haven't talked too much about our internal dialogue and what we say to ourselves when we don't do what we think we should have done. But yeah, we do have a tendency to not do too good on how we chastise ourselves. So, and like Daylise said here, she took the soul allure test. Actually, she took it today, and her partner's going to take it later. And she was able to find out some of the things she forgot about, which is awesome because, again, when you're taking these tests, they're not concrete. So they are subject to change, just like we are. We're going to change. We're going to evolve. Sometimes we're going to also regress. So we're going to have moments where I just told you, when I was door dashing, I might not be too good at not having road rage. So I have to be honest with me, be like, oh, I need to work on my patience. with certain people. You know, I need to not go to left every time I get upset. Maybe I need to make sure I'm working on that. Hey, we have to be honest, right? Make sure to share this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit the like button. Also, don't forget to share the video also. And sit down later. If you didn't catch this on the live, it's fine. Go back and watch it, because again, I always say, when I'm doing this live, you know, you can definitely learn, but it even is best to take your time and take notes after this, because then you're not only learning, but you're remembering, oh, I do things, and then you can be a little more reflective, because when you're here and in the live, you're here in real time, so you can say stuff, and then I can say stuff, and the next thing you know, we're talking, and then you're maybe not where you want to be, but you are here. But again, that's why I think it's important to take your notes, soul study, pay attention, and remember, just because you're in the daunting phase doesn't mean it's over. It's going through a phase. And so when you're going through a phase, you have to give yourself time. Remember, it's the time to be patient. It's the time to pay attention. During intimacy, pay attention. Are you there, or are you everywhere else? Because we are just as guilty, if not sometimes even worse, because we're thinking about the last time, or maybe even thinking about an ex. I don't know. But in our private thoughts, no one else can hear them but us. So we can go into all kind of fantasy worlds. And sometimes we're doing that just to get through it, because we don't feel connection or moved to be in the love affair we're in. And it's okay, but just understand, this is not the time in the daunting phase to try to make a decision on if you want to remain in the love affair or not. Okay? So I'm so glad you're here. Like I said, make sure to share this video. Again, I will be back next Thursday at 8 o'clock. And we're going to talk again about some more SoulEclipse. Talk about some things about the daunting phase that I don't think we think about. I think it's important that we remember that we have to be patient, not just with our lover, but with ourselves. And then allow ourselves to reveal that imperfect self. Not the representative, but the imperfect self. The self that's not always good, not always reasonable. Sometimes we're difficult, challenging, frustrated, hurt, in mourning, grieving, sad. We have all the different types of phases we go through individually. So be patient on your love affair. We do have our moments, but let's not get so caught up in the right now that we can't just push the pause button and allow things to kind of calm down and see where are we at when it's time to get face to face, and where are we at once we come to that realization we are face to face. Where are we at? Are we still here, or did we just go through a phase, and let's move on from it? But let's also talk about it so it doesn't keep coming up, so that we don't have to keep dealing with this over and over again. And that's one of the greatest things about the daunting phase, is that we can move forward once we actually do what we need to do, which is acknowledgement first, and then dealing with it second. And if you need any help at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Like I said, I'm Coach Carla Nicole. You can email me at coachcarlanicole@gmail.com, or you can call 844-5-WISDOM, extension 0. I'm out of here, guys. So glad that you're here. You have a great evening. And also, I will be on Friday, I believe. Let me not misquote. I know I have another show coming up, which is the Soul Allure show, that I would love for you to join. Make sure to click the notification on the calendar, because on the calendar are the times that I will be going live. So don't forget to join me for my Soul Allure show. And I'm out of here, guys. It's your coach, Carla Nicole. Have a great night. Bye.